Hello and welcome to TYT Interviews. I'm Wes Clark Jr. and today I'll be interviewing CJ Baricevic, who's running for Congress in Southern Illinois. CJ, are you with us?
I'm here. How are you?
I'm good. How you doing?
I'm excellent. How are you?
I'm good. Now, I've been around your area and I've done some reading on you, and you are a spokesman for American unions.
Yeah, I have been. I was local counsel for a lawsuit that was brought against the governor of the state of Illinois and the comptroller. They essentially, in a nutshell, the contracted for labor in the state of Illinois, pardon me, was going to lose their paycheck when the budget impasse came to be about last year this time. The governor was essentially using the budget shortfall as a political tool. So we sued the governor and the comptroller in two separate suits in St. Clair County, and we were successful. And because of that effort, organized labor was paid in the state of Illinois. Anybody that was contracted with the state received paycheck and continues to do so. So it was a good fight.
Oh, that is a good victory. And just so people know, you not only worked as a union laborer, but also a pipe fitter before you became a lawyer defending people's rights.
That's correct. I worked out of Local 100 in East St. Louis as a laborer, and then before law school out of Local 439 as a pipe fitter. I worked at the coke ovens in Granite City Steel, 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, the summer prior to law school. I had to find a way to help pay for that. So it was a great job. I worked with good guys. We made a fair wage, a good living, and it helped offset some of the student loans that I had to take on in order to go to law school.
Nice. Now, CJ, what are your primary goals as you're running for Congress to help the American people and especially the people of your district?
Right. So obviously there's a lot going on, but I think there are three important issues that we need to address moving forward, not just as an elected body, but as a people. We've got to address our economy and our changing economy. Those are going to be tough and intellectual conversations, and we need to have the right folks on board to address those issues. We've got to take care of healthcare. We, particularly in districts like mine that lack a major metropolitan area where healthcare is just not affordable, even with the Affordable Care Act. And finally, something that's near and dear to my heart because I had to deal with it, student loans. We've got a tremendous student debt right now. I think student loan debt is overtaking credit card debt, is the primary debt for people in my generation outside of a mortgage. And we've just got to address that issue. We shouldn't penalize our students because they want to better themselves and better the American economy.
How long did it take you to pay off your student debts, or are you still paying them off?
I'm still paying off my debt. And frankly, compared to most Americans, I've been very lucky. I work for a small law firm in St. Clair County. I'm able to make my payments. I haven't defaulted like, unfortunately, so many folks have. But paying those loans is still a priority, and it's an obligation, a financial obligation that I have to make on a monthly basis.
Do you mind if I ask
tough.
How much do you have to pay a month on that still? And I'm guessing this was at least 15, 16 years ago that you were in law school.
Sure. So I'm only 31. So I graduated from law school in 2011. So I certainly don't have I've only been paying for 5 years, but it's still significant. I've got about $70,000 left to pay, and I pay about $700 a month.
God, so, $700 a month. That's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's definitely significant. It takes a toll on budgeting, just like it does with anyone else. But it's a priority that I've had to make, and I've been lucky enough to have employment that's allowed me to pay those loans off. But we see a lot of folks who can't make those payments. I'm also a part-time public defender, so I represent people who can't afford an attorney. And I talk to folks in that capacity on a daily basis about the struggles that they have just trying to pay off regular bills. So when you add something like student loan debt, a debt that was incurred specifically to improve yourself, it's an investment in yourself, it's tough. It's tough, and it's something we need to address.
Yeah, no, I agree. I got lucky. I did ROTC, so the Army paid for my college. Otherwise, I'm sure I'd still be paying it off.
Well, thank you very much for that.
Oh, my pleasure. Now, listen, how are we going to fix the economy? And after you tell me, I've got a follow-up question for you.
Well, the first thing we got to do to address the issues that are important for our economy is we got to get rid of this partisan bickering at a federal level, and frankly at a state level. And most of our state houses were dealing with the same issues. We can't address regular issues without dealing with party leadership. Barack Obama made a great point when he said things that used to be bipartisan and globally bipartisan, like infrastructure repair, are no longer the case. They're non-starters because we are naturally contrarian now in our political disposition. It's got to stop. And I think my generation, younger Americans, are particularly sensitive to that. I mean, this is the America that we're inheriting. And we got to put some of this party nonsense to the side and really concentrate on progress. The economy, you would think, is a bipartisan issue, and we still can't get things passed. So that's the most important. That's the most important thing, in my opinion, to move the needle on that issue, is to just get rid of this bipartisan bickering.
What's your suggestion on how we do that? And I agree, we're not using it like a utilitarian approach to solve our problems. We're fighting over ideologies that are 30 to 40 years old, and they're fit for a world that doesn't even exist anymore.
Right. I think one of the ways to do it is to look into term limits for party leadership, so that we don't have these career stalwarts at a leadership level that control fundraising and that crack the whip in terms of organizing votes. We need opportunities for younger legislators, for younger public servants. And if we were able to maintain leadership in a capacity that promoted working together, we might be able to start solving some problems.
Mm-hmm. So term limits will help us get rid of people like Mitch the Turtle McConnell?
Well, just because I disagree with the politician doesn't mean it's time for him to go. That's why we have these elections. It's up to the voters to decide who they want to represent them. But term limits as they apply to party leaders. So, for example, I don't think Mitch McConnell should be in his position in the Senate leadership until he decides he no longer wants to stick around. I think that is a preclusion to progress.
I agree 100%. Now, there's one stickler I gotta bring up from your website and kind of find out how open you are to a change in policy. You know, when we're looking at economic policy in the country, I see a lot of talk about retraining for people when we, go after a sector that's either polluting or needs to change. But retraining isn't really a great solution for people in their 40s and 50s unless there's an actual job waiting for them on the other side of it.
That's right. I mean, one of the things that we have got to do better as a country is advocate for new businesses to come in and replace, if and only if those old businesses are leaving. I'm certainly not advocating or suggesting that I would want to chase off existing industry in my district, but we do need an opportunity for folks to go to work if their job isn't around. We really, as a country, haven't done that since the New Deal, frankly, in terms of retraining our workforce. So you're right. We do need to make an obligation, and this should not just be lip service. We retrain, as you just indicated with your ROTC service, we do make an obligation to our soldiers that if they serve, they'll have an opportunity to retrain in a professional capacity, to send them to school. And that's certainly an obligation for our workforce. But we need to have other blue-collar solutions to labor issues, and we don't service those individuals.
No, we do a terrible job of it. I'm a pretty active environmentalist at the moment, and my number one concern in the world is climate change. And when I look at your website, your top priorities are to keep coal, steel, oil, and gas in your district. If in 6 to 7 months we're able to agree as a country that we need a World War II style solution to fix climate change, would you support that as long as there's an industrial plan to take care of the workers in your district?
Absolutely. My priority, and I've made this known since the first day that I decided to consider this campaign, is a dedication to the workers in our district. I think some of the folks in Southern Illinois think, for example, the Democratic Party has left them, that there is no party for working folks anymore. And I think that there is. Here's my issue. I absolutely appreciate and understand the science of climate change. It's a real issue that we have to deal with. In fact, I was on a conference call with several national security advisors, and they're telling us that if not the number one issue in national security right now is climate change. and how it's going to affect us in the next 20 years in terms of our foreign policy. So it's definitely a real issue. My opponent, however, is a climate change denier. He for whatever reason, doesn't believe that the scientists that, it's their job to be accurate on this issue. But here's the point. If we have dirty air, dirty water, and all the jobs we can handle, we die. If we have clean air and clean water and nobody's working, we riot. So the reality of the situation is we have to keep putting people to work. We have to have an industrial solution. We need to appreciate what we're doing to our climate, and we've got to resolve the issue with a dedication to the workforce that's made this country such a fantastic place to live.
So would you support then, if you're in, and help us get a New Deal type World War II scale mobilization to build all the infrastructure we need to handle the carbon that's already in the air, as well as switch focus on the industries with a cooperation between industry and government so that workers aren't screwed over?
So obviously it's tough to let you know whether or not I'd support legislation without being able to read the actual legislation. Total hypothetical. But to your point, the National Recovery Act did great service to the country. And I think that if we can dedicate retraining our workforce and utilizing the infrastructure that's in not just my district, but the United States of America, then I can get on board with that kind of legislation, so long as we maintain our priorities.
And those priorities are economic growth, fair wages. Yeah. Because you look at politics, and I think the American people are about 80%, 90% in agreement. Whether you're a Republican or Democrat, we all want the same things. We want stable jobs, clean neighborhoods, safe place for our kids, and decent education. It ain't rocket science. I mean, here's the deal. I don't often talk about this, but when I was working at Granite City Steel, when I was working at U.S. Steel for that brief summer before law school, we were on 8-man gangs, and we worked, like I said earlier, 12-hour days, 7 days a week, and they were good jobs, and a lot of folks provided for their families. We've got people who work there that are now either unemployed or underemployed, people that clearly want to go to work. They were working in a tough situation, providing for their families and hustling, and now they're out of work. These are not people that don't want to work. These are people that have been unconsequentially affected by the economy. And those are the people that we have to make a dedication to. And if we can do that, if we can continue the dedication to those folks, people that want to go to work, want to earn a living, want to provide for their families, and most importantly, do not want to be a drain on society, then I think we can engage in any kind of policy conversation that we need to, as long as those folks are a priority. That's really great to hear, CJ. I appreciate it. Now, how about foreign policy? What are your thoughts on the U.S. and our, prosecution of wars overseas and our general strategic stance right now? So I think one of the things that we have to concentrate on when we talk about foreign policy is how it affects our debt. I think that's what's ignored in most instances. There was a congressman in my district who I was lucky enough to work for briefly named Jerry Costello. And when we invaded Iraq and Afghanistan, he used to say that we're financing these two wars on a credit card. Before we engage in global foreign policy decisions, we've got to make sure that we can finance those decisions. That being said, whether you like Barack Obama or you don't, his diplomacy, his ability to stress diplomacy over boots on the ground has been, I think, a great success. There is no better way to show the troops that you sincerely care about their future than protecting them. And I think Barack Obama's diplomatic policy has done just that. I think if we can lead our foreign policy with a diplomatic approach, we will continue to be a world leader. We'll continue to bring parties to the tables in various foreign policy conversations. And we can change. We can continue to change the world for a better place. That's great to hear. Now, CJ, is there anything else you want to add in? Because I know we've got a hard out coming up really soon. Yeah, well, I tell you what. For the folks that aren't in the district, we need to finance this race. How do they finance it? How do they help you out? They can go to cjforcongress.com and donate. And for folks that are in the district, I think my candidacy really represents a common sense, viable departure from business as usual, from politics that we've seen for so many years.
we have an opportunity to put somebody young in office, somebody with some common sense and some real world experience. And I really, really look forward to the opportunity to serve.
Thank you very much, CJ. But just so everyone knows, common sense isn't all that common. So if someone's got it, pay attention.
Hey, you're right about that. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it.